What if the outcome of just one duel had been different? Perhaps Robert Baratheon would never have become king. Perhaps House Targaryen would have continued to rule the Iron Throne. Perhaps the story we know as Game of Thrones would have unfolded very differently. In the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, history isn't always shaped by massive armies or legendary battles. Sometimes, everything comes down to two warriors standing face to face, and the result of their duel changes the fate of an entire kingdom. Today, we're counting down the 10 greatest duels in the history of Westeros. Some became legendary through the TV shows, while others earned their reputation in George R. Martin's books. Before we begin, 2 quick spoiler warnings. Number 5 contains spoilers for A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, and number 3 contains major spoilers for future events in House of the Dragon that have not yet appeared on screen. Now let's begin. Number 10, Jon Snow versus the White Walker, Hardhome. When Jon Snow sailed to Hardhome, he wasn't looking for a battle. His mission was to convince the free folk to leave their homes before the army of the dead arrived. Many agreed to follow him, but before they could escape, the Night King and his army attacked. Within minutes, Hardhome turned into a massacre. As Jon fought his way toward the ships, he suddenly came face to face with a White Walker. He attacked with an ordinary sword, but the White Walker shattered it with a single blow. For a brief moment, it seemed Jon had no chance of surviving. Then he drew Longclaw, his Valyrian steel sword. The White Walker attacked again. This time, Longclaw blocked the icy weapon instead of breaking. Realizing what he had just discovered, Jon immediately struck back. One powerful swing was enough. The White Walker shattered into thousands of pieces of ice. For the first time, everyone witnessed that Valyrian steel could kill White Walkers. Even the Night King stopped for a moment and watched. Although the duel lasted only a few moments, it revealed one of humanity's greatest weapons against the White Walkers, making it one of the most important fights in the series. Number 9, Jon Snow versus Ramsay Bolton. The Battle of the Bastards ended with House Stark reclaiming Winterfell. For the first time, Ramsay Bolton had nowhere left to run. His army was destroyed, his castle had fallen, and he was captured alive. Jon Snow walked toward him without saying a word. Ramsay threw the first punch. Jon answered immediately. Punch after punch landed on Ramsay, and with every hit, he grew weaker. Within seconds, he was lying helpless on the ground, unable to defend himself. Jon could have killed him right there. Instead, he chose to walk away. Later, Sansa Stark locked Ramsay inside the kennels with his own starving hounds. The same dogs he had used to torture and kill others finally turned on their master. From a technical standpoint, this wasn't the greatest duel on the list. But as the final confrontation between Jon Snow and the man who stole Winterfell, it remains one of the most satisfying moments in Game of Thrones. Number 8, Jaime Lannister versus Eddard Stark. After Catelyn Stark captured Tyrion Lannister, Jaime rode through the streets of King's Landing to confront Eddard Stark. Neither man was willing to back down. Both drew their swords. At the time, Jaime was widely regarded as the finest swordsman in the Seven Kingdoms. Opposite him stood Ned Stark, a seasoned warrior who had fought throughout Robert's rebellion. Jaime attacked with incredible speed, trying to break through Ned's defense. Ned answered every strike with patience and experience. For several minutes, neither man could gain the upper hand. It was exactly the duel fans had always wanted to see. Then everything changed. One of Jaime's guards suddenly stabbed Ned through the leg with a spear, ending the duel before it had a true winner. Jaime was furious. He wanted to defeat Ned himself, not through someone else's interference. Because the fight ended so abruptly, fans still debate who would have won if it had continued. Number 7, Brienne of Tarth versus Sandor Clegane. Brienne of Tarth has spent years searching for Arya Stark to fulfill the oath she had sworn to Catelyn Stark. When she finally found Arya, she discovered that she was traveling with Sandor Clegane, better known as the Hound. Brienne insisted that Arya should come with her. The Hound refused. Within moments, words gave way to steel. The duel began with swords, but it quickly became a brutal fight for survival. As both warriors grew exhausted, they abandoned technique and fought with anything they could. They traded punches, kicks, and savage blows, refusing to surrender despite their injuries. Finally, Brienne managed to overpower the Hound and throw him from the edge of a rocky cliff. Broken and barely able to move, Sandor lay waiting for death. Arya looked at him one last time, then turned around and walked away. Its raw brutality and realism make this one of the most unforgettable fights in the entire series. Number 6. The Hound versus the Mountain. The hatred between Sandor and Gregor Clegane began when they were children. One day, Sandor played with one of Gregor's toys. As punishment, Gregor shoved his little brother's face into a burning brazier, leaving him permanently scarred. From that day on, Sandor lived with only one goal: to kill his brother. Years later, during Daenerys Targaryen's attack on King's Landing, that opportunity finally arrived. As the Red Keep collapsed around them, Sandor climbed to the top of the castle to confront Gregor one last time. At first, the Mountain stood beside Queen Cersei as her protector. But the moment he saw Sandor, nothing else mattered. The two brothers drew their swords, and the duel began. Sandor landed several clean strikes, but Gregor barely reacted. The Mountain was no longer truly human. Even after Sandor drove a dagger into his eye, Gregor kept fighting as if he felt no pain. Realizing he couldn't win by ordinary means, Sandor made one final choice. He wrapped his arms around his brother and threw both of them through the broken wall of the tower. Locked together, they plunged into the fire below. After a lifetime of hatred, the Clegane brothers died together. Number 5, Sir Duncan the Tall and the Trial of Seven. Spoiler warning for A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Nearly 90 years before the events of Game of Thrones, a young hedge knight named Sir Duncan the Tall arrived at the Ashford tournament. Dunk wasn't famous. He had no noble title, no great reputation, and no powerful family behind him. But he possessed something just as valuable: honor. Everything changed when Prince Aemond Targaryen brutally attacked a young puppeteer named Tansel. Unable to stand by and watch, Dunk stepped in and knocked the prince to the ground. Striking a prince was considered treason, and the punishment was death. To prove his innocence, Dunk demanded a trial of 7, one of the oldest traditions in Westeros. 7 champions would fight for each side, leaving the gods to decide the victor. When the battle began, the tournament grounds erupted into chaos. Lances shattered, forces crashed to the ground. 14 knights fought in one of the bloodiest trials Westeros had ever seen. Although Dunk faced princes and some of the greatest knights in the realm, he refused to back down. His courage inspired the men fighting beside him, and together they slowly turned the tide. In the end, Dunk's side was victorious. His honor had been defended, but the victory came at a terrible cost. Prince Baelor Breakspear, the beloved heir to the Iron Throne, suffered fatal injuries during the battle and died soon afterward. His death changed the Targaryen line of succession forever. Number 4, Sir Arthur Dayne versus Eddard Stark and his companions. After Robert's rebellion had come to an end, Eddard Stark rode to the Tower of Joy with 6 loyal companions. He believed his sister, Lyanna Stark, was inside the tower. Waiting outside were 2 members of the Kingsguard, led by the legendary Sir Arthur Dayne, the Sword of the Morning. Although the war was over and House Targaryen had fallen, the Kingsguard refused to abandon their post. After a few final words, both sides drew their swords, 6 against 2. From the very beginning, Arthur Dayne proved why he was regarded as one of the greatest swordsmen in Westeros. Fighting with unmatched speed and skill, he cut down Ned's companions one by one until only Ned Stark and Howland Reed remained. Arthur was about to kill Ned when Howland Reed stabbed him from behind, giving Ned the chance to deliver the fatal blow. Arthur Dayne fell. To this day, many fans believe that without Howland Reed's intervention, Arthur Dayne would have defeated everyone at the Tower of Joy. Number 3, Daemon vs. Aemond major spoilers for future House of the Dragon events. During the Dance of the Dragons, no rivalry burned hotter than the one between Daemon Targaryen and Aemond Targaryen. Years earlier, Aemond had killed Daemon's stepson, Lucerys Velaryon. Daemon swore that one day he would have his revenge. That day finally came above the lake known as the God's Eye. Daemon rode Caraxes. Aemond rode Rhaegar, the largest dragon in the world. As the dragons collided high above the lake, the sky itself seemed to shake. They tore into each other with teeth and claws, refusing to let go. Then came one of the most legendary moments in Westerosi history. Daemon unfastened himself from his saddle, leaped from Caraxes onto Rhaegar, and before Aemond could react, drove the Valyrian steel sword Dark Sister through his remaining eye. Moments later, both dragons crashed into the waters of the God's Eye. Neither rider survived. It was the spectacular end to one of the greatest rivalries in House Targaryen's history, and one of the most unforgettable duels George R.R. Martin has ever written. Number 2, Oberyn Martell versus the Mountain. When Tyrion Lannister was accused of murdering King Joffrey, he demanded a trial by combat. Almost no one expected Prince Oberyn Martell to volunteer as his champion. But Oberyn wasn't fighting to save Tyrion. He had come for revenge. Years earlier, during the sack of King's Landing, Gregor Clegane had brutally murdered Oberyn's sister, Elia Martell, along with her 2 young children. Oberyn had waited years for the chance to face the Mountain. As the duel began, the contrast between the 2 warriors was impossible to ignore. The Mountain stood in massive armor, carrying an enormous greatsword. Oberyn entered the arena with nothing but a long spear coated in poison. Gregor relied on overwhelming strength. Oberyn relied on speed, precision, and patience. Again and again, Oberyn slipped past the Mountain's attacks, striking him with his poison spear before moving out of reach. With every wound, the poison weakened Gregor. Eventually, the giant collapsed to the ground. Victory was only 1 strike away. But Oberyn didn't want a quick kill. He wanted Gregor to confess. As he demanded justice for Elia Martell, the Mountain suddenly grabbed him, slammed him to the ground, and crushed his skull with his bare hands. In just a few seconds, what looked like a certain victory became one of the most shocking deaths in the history of Game of Thrones. Number 1, Robert Baratheon versus Rhaegar Targaryen. If one duel deserves to be called the most important in the history of Westeros, it is Robert Baratheon versus Rhaegar Targaryen at the Battle of the Trident. By the final days of Robert's rebellion, the fate of the 7 kingdoms rested on a single battle. Leading the royal army was Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, heir to the Iron Throne. Leading the rebels was Robert Baratheon, determined to overthrow the Targaryen dynasty once and for all. As thousands of soldiers fought around them, the 2 commanders finally met in the waters of the Trident. Everyone knew this duel would decide the future of the realm. Rhaegar wore his famous black armor, decorated with shining red rubies. Robert carried the enormous warhammer that had become the symbol of the rebellion. The duel began with Rhaegar pressing the attack. His swordsmanship was elegant, disciplined, and precise. Robert answered with overwhelming strength, driving the prince backward with devastating swings of his warhammer. For several moments, neither warrior gave ground. Then Robert saw his opportunity. With all of his strength, he brought his warhammer crashing into Rhaegar's chest. The impact shattered the prince's breastplate, sending hundreds of red rubies scattering into the waters of the Trident. Rhaegar Targaryen died where he fell. With the prince dead, the royal army collapsed. Within days, King's Landing fell. The Mad King was killed, After nearly 300 years, House Targaryen lost the Iron Throne. If this duel had ended differently, the entire history of Westeros might have changed. That is why Robert Baratheon versus Rhaegar Targaryen stands as the greatest duel in the history of Westeros. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video with more stories and rankings from the world of A Song of Ice and Fire.